Lucas wiped the sweat from his brow and leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. The lab was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines and the occasional hiss of cooling vents. The lights above cast a pale glow over the workstations filled with gadgets, circuit boards, and strange alien tech he had collected over the years. This was supposed to be just another night of tests and repairs, nothing unusual. At least, that's what he thought. He reached for the last energy converter he had been repairing, his fingers carefully tracing the delicate circuits. It was a complex device designed to manage the flow of energy in both human and alien systems. One misstep could cause it to overload, and with it, potentially damage months of research. Lucas had spent years learning to handle these devices, but some days, especially when exhaustion hit, he liked to joke to himself. "Sweet Fang, if only you existed," he muttered quietly, chuckling under his breath. It was one of those silly names he made up when imagining the perfect alien companion, someone clever, curious, and slightly mischievous. He didn't expect anyone or anything to answer. A small shimmer of light appeared on his desk. Lucas froze, his fingers hovering over the converter. The shimmer grew brighter and spread like ripples on water, and then, with a faint pop that sounded almost like a soft laugh, a figure materialized. Lucas blinked, rubbed his eyes, and blinked again. A humanoid creature now perched on the edge of his desk. She had sleek silver fur that caught the light, golden eyes that glimmered with curiosity, and a long tail flicking lazily back and forth. Her posture was confident but playful, like someone who had just walked into a room where they belonged. Lucas's mouth went dry. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. What are you?" he stammered. The alien tilted her head, ears twitching slightly as if amused by his confusion. "Sweet Fang?" she asked in perfect common, her voice melodic yet carrying a subtle amusement. "You called me that." Lucas's mind raced. This wasn't possible. Teleportation, a hallucination. He pinched himself, pain real enough. He looked back at the figure and she smiled faintly, tail flicking in time with her amusement. I was just joking," he managed to say. "I didn't mean," his voice trailed off. She leapt gracefully onto the desk, landing beside his energy converter without disturbing it. Her eyes scanned the circuits with obvious interest. Lucas noticed she wasn't just staring. Her fingers hovered over the device, tracing the paths of energy without touching them in a destructive way. Her understanding was immediate, instinctive, precise. He had seen many humans struggle to handle alien tech, but this creature handled it as if it were an extension of herself. "You know your machines," she said finally, looking up at him. "Interesting, very human yet different." Lucas swallowed hard. I design and repair them. That's my job." He gestured to the lab around him, filled with blinking panels, tools, and devices that looked more advanced than anything he had ever seen outside of this facility. She nodded, eyes gleaming. "Clever. I like clever." Lucas took a cautious step back. You came here because of my words," she shrugged, a mischievous smirk forming on her face. "Maybe. You said my name." Her tail flicked faster now, and Lucas noticed it seemed almost alive with emotion, curiosity, amusement, a hint of challenge. The hum of the lab seemed louder now, and Lucas could feel the energy in the room shift. He realized quickly that she wasn't just a playful creature. There was something powerful about her presence. Not just physical power, but mental. She seemed to understand systems, devices, and energy flow as naturally as he did, if not better. "So you're really here," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Not a hallucination, not a dream, not a trick." She tilted her head again as if questioning the point of the statement. "Why would I lie?" Lucas laughed nervously. "No reason." I just didn't expect." He trailed off. The alien reached forward and lightly touched the energy converter, her fingers glowing faintly as they passed over the circuits. Lucas gasped slightly as the device hummed, more efficient than it had moments before. He realized she had enhanced it without even meaning to. "You're improving it," he said, awe creeping into his voice. "Curiosity," she said simply, flicking her tail. "I like to see how things work. Humans make interesting things. Fragile yet clever, adaptive." Lucas stared at her, fascinated and nervous at the same time. You're amazing." Her golden eyes sparkled. "And you are amusing. I think I like you." Lucas swallowed hard, realizing that the alien wasn't just clever. She was sentient, playful, and perhaps even capable of understanding him in ways no other being could. But there was danger, too. The lab had sensors for unauthorized teleportation. Something this unusual would trigger alarms, and if corporate security caught wind of an alien inside a secure human facility, he could lose everything. "You need to stay quiet," Lucas said, glancing nervously at the security panel. "If anyone finds you here." She flicked her tail, uninterested in the warning. "Then I'll hide, but I want to learn, I want to see, and you will teach me." Lucas ran a hand through his hair, exhaling slowly. This was going to be a long night, or perhaps a very long life. Somehow, he knew that this creature, this sweet Fang, would change everything. Hours passed as they worked together. Lucas repaired damaged circuits and adjusted delicate systems while Sweet Fang observed, occasionally nudging things in ways that made the devices more efficient. She had an instinct for technology that Lucas had never seen before, and he realized her presence was enhancing his own abilities. At one point, a low vibration ran through the lab. Lucas looked up just in time to see a warning light blink red. A minor power surge was coming from the city grid, and it threatened to overload his equipment. He moved quickly to contain it, but Sweet Fang had already placed a hand over the main converter. The energy stabilized instantly, and Lucas's jaw dropped. How did you do that?" he asked. She shrugged, tail flicking lazily. "I just know, humans are clever, but I like to help. You called me, I came, now I fix." Lucas shook his head, laughing nervously. "I can't believe this. You're unbelievable." Sweet Fang leaned back, sitting cross-legged on his desk, her tail flicking in time with her amusement. "And you are human. I think that makes you clever too. You summon me and you do not run. You watch, you learn, you adapt. Clever." Lucas felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had spent years alone in the lab, buried in machines and research, but now, for the first time, he wasn't alone. Not really. And somehow he didn't feel fear, even though the creature on his desk could be the most dangerous being in the galaxy, or at least in this sector. Instead, he felt excited. But then came the practical worries. Security protocols, corporate oversight, and the sheer impossibility of having a sentient alien in his lab. He glanced at the clock. It was nearly midnight and the lab would be empty, but what if someone came early? What if an automated system detected the unusual energy signature? "We need a plan," he said. "You can't just sit here appearing out of nowhere. If anyone finds you, it will be catastrophic." She looked at him, golden eyes narrowing playfully. "Plan," she paused, then added, "I like watching, but I can hide. Humans are predictable. You can help me stay unnoticed." Lucas sighed. He knew she was right. He would have to protect her, but he also realized something else. She wasn't just an alien. She was extraordinary, and maybe humanity needed this. Someone who could challenge them, teach them, and help them grow. The night deepened, and the city outside the lab hummed quietly. Sweet Fang hopped from one desk to another, tail flicking, inspecting tools, making small adjustments with instinctive precision. Lucas watched her, part in awe and part in disbelief. Finally, he leaned back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. He could feel the tension in his body melt slightly, replaced by curiosity and anticipation. "All right," he said softly. "Let's see what we can do together." Sweet Fang paused, tilting her head. "Together," she repeated, her tail flicking once more. "I like that word. Humans, clever word. I will stay, I will learn, and perhaps I will teach too." Lucas chuckled softly, realizing that the night had just begun. The arrival of Sweet Fang wasn't a random event or a hallucination. It was the start of something extraordinary, something that would test his ingenuity, courage, and humanity itself. He didn't know how it would end, but he knew one thing for certain: his life would never be the same again. And as Sweet Fang flicked her tail in amusement, perched confidently on his desk, Lucas felt a strange sense of hope. For the first time in years, he wasn't alone. Not really. The next morning, Lucas woke to the soft hum of the lab and the faint sunlight filtering through the tall windows. He had barely slept, images of last night's events running through his mind. Sweet Fang was still there, perched lightly on his desk, tail flicking as if she had never left. She blinked at him, golden eyes catching the sunlight, and let out a soft purr-like sound, almost like a laugh. Lucas rubbed his eyes. "You didn't leave?" he asked, disbelief evident in his voice. She tilted her head. "Why would I leave? You called me. I stayed. I said we would work together." He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling slowly. He knew she was right. He had no idea how she got here, how she had passed through the city undetected, or how she knew so much. And yet there she was, as real as the lab and the machines around him. "All right," Lucas said finally. "We need to figure out what's happening and how to keep you hidden. If anyone sees you, I could be in serious trouble." Sweet Fang's tail flicked thoughtfully. "Humans worry too much. Observation, careful movement, patience. You will teach me." Lucas nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on him. Over the next few hours, he tried to explain human rules, schedules, and technology limitations. Sweet Fang listened carefully, her ears twitching occasionally, her golden eyes sharp and focused. She asked questions, not with words but with gestures and expressions, and Lucas quickly learned to understand her meaning. Her intelligence was beyond what he had expected, yet it was not cold or calculating. It was playful, curious, and intensely analytical at the same time. As the day wore on, Lucas showed her a series of devices he had been working on: energy converters, communication interfaces, and small drones used for inspection. Sweet Fang's fingers hovered over each device, tail flicking as she observed the smallest details. When Lucas explained the function of the energy converters, she nodded slowly, her ears moving as though she were calculating something in her mind. "Interesting," she said softly. "Humans make many small, clever things. I like that." Lucas smiled, a little relieved. "Glad you like them, but remember, you can't just touch everything. Some of these are delicate." She looked at him with a playful expression, one eyebrow raised. "I can be careful. You underestimate me." Lucas laughed, shaking his head. "Maybe I do." He noticed she had a strange way of moving, almost like she was dancing around the lab, graceful and precise. Her tail moved almost independently, expressing emotions he could barely interpret. At one moment it flicked fast, showing excitement, and a few seconds later it curled gently, signaling calm. By midday, Lucas decided it was time to take a short break. He made himself a cup of coffee and sat across from Sweet Fang, who had curled up on a work table, her golden eyes following his every movement. "You don't eat or drink?" he asked, curious. She shook her head. "No need. Energy from surroundings, from presence, from focus." Lucas blinked. "You mean you can draw energy without food?" She smiled faintly. "Humans rely on many things. I rely on less." He sipped his coffee, feeling a mix of amazement and anxiety. Her abilities were impressive, but they also made him wonder how much she could do if someone tried to take her or harm her. He realized he had to be careful, but he also felt a strange sense of companionship he hadn't experienced in years. As the afternoon approached, Lucas and Sweet Fang began testing a small drone. He had been working on it for weeks, trying to create a device that could navigate complex alien environments. Sweet Fang observed him closely, then reached out and touched the drone lightly. Its systems responded instantly, operating faster and more efficiently. "See," she said, her tail flicking happily. "Clever humans, clever devices, but together, better." Lucas felt a thrill of excitement. You just improved it without me even doing anything." She shrugged, her expression playful. "Observation and touch. Simple. You will learn." He laughed softly, feeling more comfortable around her. Despite the strangeness of the situation, she made him feel capable. He realized that working with her was not just about teaching or protecting her. It was about learning himself, expanding his own abilities and understanding. But the tranquility of the lab was soon interrupted. A soft chime came from the security panel. Lucas's stomach sank. Someone had triggered an alert in the building. He quickly glanced at the monitor. It was a minor sensor reading, a drone passing close to the building, but it was enough to raise suspicion if the system detected an unusual energy signature. "We have a problem," he whispered. Sweet Fang's ears twitched. "Problem? Let me see." Lucas moved quickly, guiding her to a secure corner of the lab behind a series of energy shields he had installed for experiments. She crouched there, tail wrapped around her feet, watching him work. He activated a temporary cloaking system for the lab, diverting energy readings and masking the unusual signature she created. "Humans and machines," she murmured. "Clever but tense." Lucas nodded, biting his lip. "Exactly. One wrong move and everything could go wrong." The drone passed by the building and the alert subsided. Lucas exhaled, feeling his heart slow. Sweet Fang stepped forward again, curious as ever. "You worry too much," she said, flicking her tail. "Learn to adapt. Humans are adaptable. You will teach me that." He smiled faintly. Maybe I will." After the security scare, Lucas decided to continue their work, though now he had a plan in mind. He would need to train Sweet Fang, not just in understanding human devices, but in understanding how to remain unnoticed. Her intelligence was incredible, but she lacked knowledge of human rules, schedules, and society. That would be crucial if anyone ever came looking for her. The training began with simple exercises. Lucas taught her to move quietly around the lab, to observe without triggering sensors, and to interact with machines in ways that would not raise alarms. Sweet Fang proved to be a quick learner, her instincts complementing his explanations perfectly. "You are fast," Lucas said as she completed a stealth movement across the room. "Too fast sometimes. Humans might notice if you move like that outside the lab." She tilted her head. "Then I will adapt. Slow, careful, but still clever." As evening approached, Lucas realized they had spent nearly 12 hours together. Despite the danger and strangeness, he felt a strange warmth. Sweet Fang wasn't just a curious alien. She was a partner, a companion, and perhaps even a friend. But their work was far from over. News had started to circulate in the city about a mysterious energy fluctuation near the research sector. Corporations were sending drones and investigators to trace it. Lucas knew that if Sweet Fang was discovered, it could lead to serious consequences. He glanced at her. "We need a plan for the future. You can't stay hidden forever. Someone will come looking for you." She flicked her tail thoughtfully. "Then we prepare. We adapt. You are clever, but together we are better. You teach me. I teach you." Lucas nodded, realizing she was right. Alone, he was vulnerable. Alone, she could be a target. But together, they had a chance. He thought about all the devices, all the knowledge he had, and all the possibilities her abilities could unlock. That night they continued their work in silence, a rhythm forming between them. Lucas would repair and explain. Sweet Fang would observe, touch, and improve. Her presence was inspiring, and he found himself thinking creatively in ways he hadn't in years. At one point, a minor malfunction in one of the energy converters caused sparks to fly. Lucas reacted instinctively, moving to shut it down, but Sweet Fang was faster. With a flick of her tail and a gentle touch, she absorbed the excess energy, stabilizing the device instantly. Lucas stared at her in awe. You're incredible," he whispered. She tilted her head, eyes gleaming. "No, you are incredible, clever humans, adaptive. You taught me. I watched together." Lucas felt a strange sense of pride. She wasn't just complimenting him, she was acknowledging him. And for the first time, he felt truly understood by another being. As the night deepened, Lucas realized something else. Sweet Fang wasn't just an alien companion. She was a mirror to humanity's potential, reflecting not just intelligence but creativity, adaptability, and resilience. Working with her was teaching him about himself as much as it was teaching her about humans. By the time he finally leaned back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated, Sweet Fang curled up on a work table, tail flicking softly in contentment. Lucas looked at her, a small smile on his face. This, this is just the beginning, he whispered. We have a lot to do, a lot to learn. Her eyes met his, golden and bright, and she gave a soft nod. Together, she said, tail flicking once more. Always together. Lucas knew she was right. The challenges ahead would not be easy. Corporations, investigators, and the mysteries of the universe itself could threaten them. But for the first time, he didn't feel fear. With Sweet Fang by his side, he felt capable of anything. And as the lab lights hummed softly, Lucas and Sweet Fang began a journey neither of them had expected. A journey of discovery, trust, and the extraordinary bond between human ingenuity and alien instinct. The next morning, Lucas woke with a sense of determination. Sweet Fang was already perched on a high shelf near the lab window, golden eyes tracking the sunlight streaming in. Her tail flicked back and forth slowly, a sign of her calm yet alert mood. He had spent the last 2 days learning to communicate with her, understand her gestures, and work together on devices that now performed far beyond human expectations. But today, he knew, the real test would begin. Reports from the city's security network had grown more urgent. Sensors had detected unusual energy spikes originating from his lab. Corporate investigators were on their way, and possibly other humans and aliens curious about the source. Lucas knew they had only a short window to prepare. "Sweet Fang," he said softly, "we need to be ready. If they find you here, it could be dangerous for both of us." She tilted her head, ears twitching. "Danger is relative. We adapt, we protect, we act. You will help me, I will help you, together." Lucas nodded. That word "together" had become their unspoken mantra. He had learned to anticipate her moves, and she had learned to read his intentions without words. Their trust had grown quickly, forged in long hours of testing devices, avoiding alarms and improvising solutions. The lab transformed that morning. Lucas reinforced energy barriers, rerouted power grids, and installed temporary cloaking protocols. Sweet Fang assisted, her keen perception spotting potential weak points in his setup. With a simple flick of her tail or a touch of her hand, she could stabilize circuits instantly. Lucas marveled at how effortlessly she adapted human devices to her alien abilities, yet he knew they were pushing their limits. Hours passed as they prepared. The city outside hummed with life, oblivious to the strange pair inside the lab, unaware that an extraordinary being hid among human machines. Lucas moved cautiously, explaining procedures and security measures to Sweet Fang. Though she already understood the technical side better than most humans, she was still learning about human systems, timing, and observation. By mid-afternoon, the first signs of trouble arrived. A group of corporate drones appeared on the perimeter sensors, their forms sleek and black, scanning for any anomaly. Lucas's heart pounded as he whispered, "They're here." Sweet Fang's tail flicked rapidly. "Let's go." Lucas followed her lead, activating emergency shields and cloaking sequences. The drones approached, scanning every inch of the building. Lucas noticed their energy sensors were highly sensitive, capable of detecting even subtle fluctuations. But Sweet Fang moved like a shadow, invisible and silent. She guided Lucas to the safest corners, showing him paths that minimized energy exposure. One drone stopped near the main lab entrance, its sensors whirring. Lucas held his breath. Sweet Fang crouched low, her tail curling around her feet, eyes locked on the machine. Then, with astonishing speed, she leapt forward, touching the drone's control panel. The device emitted a soft hum, its scanning function temporarily disabled. Lucas blinked, amazed. You did that," he whispered. She tilted her head, a playful smile forming. "Yes, observation, understanding, adaptation." The drones recovered and resumed their search, but Sweet Fang guided Lucas to a secondary exit, hidden beneath the lab floor. They moved silently, carefully, Lucas following her instincts more than his own reasoning. He realized that her presence didn't just make him feel safer, it made him think faster, act smarter. Once outside, they paused behind a cluster of transport containers. Lucas leaned against the cold metal, trying to catch his breath. Sweet Fang's tail flicked gently, a signal of calm, though her golden eyes remained alert. "They will come again," she said softly. "We must be ready." Lucas nodded. He had no doubt that their pursuers were persistent, possibly even dangerous. But he also realized something crucial. Sweet Fang's abilities combined with human ingenuity gave them a unique advantage. Where machines alone might fail, and aliens alone might misjudge human patterns, together they could outthink and outmaneuver any threat. They returned to the lab under cover of shadows, taking a longer route through maintenance tunnels that Lucas had barely explored. Sweet Fang moved like a living shadow, guiding him with precision. When they reached the lab, Lucas felt a renewed sense of confidence. They were prepared, but he knew the real challenge was yet to come. That evening, a larger threat appeared. A group of alien mercenaries, drawn by the unusual energy readings, had entered the city sector. Their technology was advanced, designed for stealth and combat, and their movements were precise. Lucas watched through the lab's cameras, heart pounding as they approached his building. Sweet Fang crouched, tail flicking rapidly. "We fight," she said simply, "but not recklessly. Clever humans, clever plans, we combine." Lucas took a deep breath. He had spent years learning engineering, robotics, and energy systems. Now, all that knowledge would be put to the test in a real-world confrontation, with an ally who could match his thinking and enhance his abilities. The first mercenary reached the lab entrance. Lucas activated the shields and opened a hidden energy channel that Sweet Fang had helped him set up. As the alien reached for the door, a pulse of energy shot out, temporarily immobilizing the intruder. Sweet Fang leapt forward, moving with incredible speed, disabling another threat before it could act. Lucas felt a surge of adrenaline. He adjusted the lab systems, guiding energy pulses to strategic points, while Sweet Fang moved fluidly, combining her instincts with his commands. They became a team, a single unit. Every movement, every calculation, every flick of her tail and twist of his hands was perfectly synchronized. The mercenaries regrouped, trying to flank the building. Lucas tapped into the city's energy grid, rerouting power to create temporary energy barriers, while Sweet Fang manipulated the fields with her touch, enhancing their strength. The attackers were persistent, but they had underestimated the combination of human creativity and alien instinct. As the battle continued, Lucas realized something remarkable. Sweet Fang wasn't just powerful, she was adaptive, learning from every move, every pattern, every signal. And Lucas, in turn, was learning from her. Together, they improvised, creating solutions that neither could have done alone. Finally, after what felt like hours, the mercenaries withdrew, realizing they had underestimated their opponents. Lucas slumped in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. Sweet Fang jumped onto the desk, tail flicking slowly, eyes bright but calm. You were incredible," Lucas said softly. She smiled, ears twitching. "No, you were incredible together. That is what matters, clever humans, adaptive humans. We succeeded because we combined together." Lucas laughed, a mix of relief and awe. "Together," he echoed, the word carrying more meaning than ever. In the following days, Lucas and Sweet Fang continued to work, but now with a renewed sense of purpose. Their bond had grown stronger, not just as allies but as partners in discovery. Lucas began designing new devices, inspired by Sweet Fang's insights and instincts, while she continued to enhance his inventions with her unique touch. News of the energy fluctuations in the sector eventually subsided. Investigators had found nothing, unable to trace the duo hidden in the lab. Lucas knew their success was not just in hiding or technology, it was in human ingenuity, adaptability, and trust. Sweet Fang had shown him that the extraordinary was possible when humans worked alongside beings that complemented their strengths. One evening, Lucas sat quietly at his desk, Sweet Fang perched beside him. He watched as she examined a small energy converter, adjusting circuits with precision and curiosity. Her tail flicked lazily, ears twitching occasionally as she observed his work. "You changed everything," he said softly. "Not just the lab, not just my life, but the way I see what humans can do." She looked up, golden eyes shining. "Humans are clever, adaptable, you proved it. You accepted me, you worked with me. That is why we succeeded, that is why we are strong." Lucas smiled, a warmth spreading through him. He realized that the future was not just about human or alien alone. It was about collaboration, understanding, and the extraordinary potential that arose when beings learned from each other. As night fell over the city, Lucas and Sweet Fang continued their work, quietly perfecting devices and systems, sharing knowledge and exploring possibilities. They were more than engineer and companion. They were partners, a team capable of facing challenges that neither could handle alone. Lucas glanced at Sweet Fang, tail flicking gently, and knew that this was only the beginning. Together, they could overcome any obstacle, explore any frontier, and achieve feats neither human nor alien could imagine alone. And in that quiet lab, with energy humming softly around them, Lucas felt a deep sense of hope. Humanity had always been clever, but now, with Sweet Fang at his side, he knew they were capable of greatness beyond imagination. For the first time, Lucas felt the full weight of possibility, and he smiled. Together, he and Sweet Fang were unstoppable. The lab lights hummed, the city outside carried on unaware, and the duo prepared for the next adventure, ready to explore, create, and challenge the boundaries of both human and alien potential. Their bond had become a force, a symbol of what could be achieved when two worlds came together, and the future was brighter than either could have imagined.